Welcome to your Canadiens Connection on Rocket Sports Radio. We are proud to be the trusted source for all things Habs for more than a decade. This is the Canadiens Connection Podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Canadiens Connection Podcast here on Rocket Sports Radio, keeping you informed, engaged, and entertained. My name is Michael Spinella, and I'll be your host for the next hour. This is episode 271 of the Canadiens Connection Podcast, and I'm very pleased to be joined in the studio by my co-host, the editor of the Hockey News Montreal, the founder and the president of Rocket Sports, Mr. Rick Stevens. Rick, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thanks. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good. I guess a nice, happy Thanksgiving to all of our friends south of the border in the United States, as they have a nice long weekend this week.
Envious of, them having turkey at this time of year. And of course, for those of us in Canada, we can still participate by watching a full day of NFL on Thanksgiving. And then I know some people were pretty busy Black Fridaying, getting all those Christmas gifts, because it's a month today, 1 month till Christmas. Our last podcast in November, the season is flying by.
Yeah, luckily yesterday morning I realized what time of year it was. I went on to Amazon, finished all my Christmas shopping, so that's all taken care of.
Well, we all hate you. We do. No, congratulations. That's fabulous.
Absolutely, but we do have a pretty busy episode on this show. It's been kind of a hectic week this past week since we were last here. We'll get you up to date on everything to do with the Montreal Canadiens, some games, some roster updates, prospect news, and then some general news from around the NHL. And then in segment two, as we approach as we're on American Thanksgiving, it's a nice benchmark as to see where each team in the NHL is at. So we'll take a look at that, and we'll talk about what the Habs could do with the remainder of the season. In segment three, it's the Have Your Say segment. We turn it over to our listeners, and to our listeners, we ask which players will finish the season as the Canadiens goaltending tandem. So we want to hear from you. And Rick, what's the best way for all of our listeners to reach out and let us know their thoughts?
We have a text line. It's called the Rocket Sports text line because it includes Rocket in the name. 585-3-ROCKET, 585-3-ROCKET. Text us 24 hours a day and let us know your thoughts on the Canadiens. Ask us a question. And if you do ask us a question, and if it's something that we are going to use on an upcoming episode, make sure you tell us your first name and where you are texting from.
Absolutely. And you can follow us on our social media and reach out to us that way. We're at Habs Connection on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Also, we have a website you can check out, canadiensconnection.fm. Make sure that you check out our comprehensive game previews and our post-game recaps for every Montreal Canadiens game at thn.com/Montreal. And here's what's happened since we've been gone this past week. Going back all the way to November the 18th, Montreal goes to Boston, and they get a bit of a whooping. Boston wins 5-2. The Habs really didn't have a whole lot going for them. I think Boston dominated in just about every category. For Montreal, though, Slavkovsky and Kovacevic picked up their second goals of the season. Pretty poor performance for the Habs beyond that. I think Jake Allen was hung out to dry. I don't think he had a bad game per se, but of course, Boston scored 5 in that one, so that's not great.
39 saves for Allen, and I don't think he could be faulted on any of the first 3 goals. Lots of pucks off sticks, both Boston sticks and Montreal sticks, and it left the Canadiens on a 4-game losing skid. And I've mentioned this for a long time that they were still at that point without a regulation win since October 23rd, and that game was against the Sabres.
And Montreal did snap that losing streak in their next game on the 22nd of November. They go into Anaheim and they win 4-3. And that was their first regulation win in exactly a month. They almost fumbled this one, though. This was a tight game between these two teams, but I think one Alex Newhook heard your criticism of him last week, and he potted a couple goals, his fifth and his sixth goals of the season, the sixth being the winner.
Yeah, this was... two teams that are rebuilding, two very young teams, and we saw soup to nuts in this game. There was sloppy play, there was brilliant playmaking, there was tremendous saves, there were soft goals, there was a little bit of everything. But yes, it was Newhook that put an end to that 4-game losing streak for the Canadiens.
And then yesterday on Friday, November the 24th, Montreal goes into San Jose and they come away with the shootout victory, 3-2. Mike Hoffman scores a goal against the Montreal Canadiens in his first game facing Montreal since being traded to San Jose. Caden Primo got the start in this one. He picks up his first win of the season. Jonathan Kovacevic and Cole Caulfield scored the two Montreal goals, but it was Jesse Ullinen with a sweet move in the shootout to win this.
A 6-round shootout, and yes, what a great move to Deke Mackenzie Blackwood and then bury it Jesse Ullinen, who we're going to hear from a little later in the quote of the week. But this was fascinating. The two teams at the bottom of the league in terms of regulation wins. The Canadiens and the Sharks tied with just 3 regulation wins, and you figured somebody's got to take the lead. No. They still, after the game was over, have 3 regulation wins each.
So the Canadiens' record so far is 9-9-2. That's 20 points and 20th in the NHL. So make sure that you continue to check out the Habs notepad, Habs headlines, and feature articles and game day posts appearing regularly at thn.com/Montreal. Taking a look at the roster news, we have a few updates on injuries. Raphael Harvey-Pinard was placed on IR with a lower body injury. He could be out for about 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah. Remember when he went out originally, it was an upper body injury. Came back one game, I believe, tried to make it go. Now he's out for an extended period with a lower body injury.
Jordan Harris was placed on IR with a lower body injury. He's going to be out indefinitely.
Yeah, no time attached to this, which is, concerning, I think. As you said, out indefinitely.
And then Arbor Xhekaj is out with an upper body injury, currently day-to-day. He was placed on IR retroactively yesterday on November the 24th. Yeah,
we saw him take that big hit against Vegas, and not the same shoulder that he had repaired, but unfortunately he'll be out for a bit, and that's we see David Savard, we see Arbor Xhekaj, we see Jordan Harris, 3 of the Canadiens' defensemen out.
So as a result, they had to make some call-ups this past week. Jaden Struble, Matthias Norlinder, and Yoel Armia were called up from the Rocket. Nice to see Jaden Struble get on the board and put up an assist against the Sharks.
Yeah, he made his debut against Anaheim and then was able, in the next game, said he felt a little more comfortable and was able to get his first point in the NHL.
And we actually have some audio coming from Jaden Struble talking about playing his first game in the NHL.
Yeah, that was awesome. Just very cool experience all around, and then cherry on top to get the win. I felt like after the first shift, it's just kind of another game. But it's definitely you look out and you see guys that you've been watching on TV. It's a little intimidating, but once you're on the ice, it's just a game.
I like Jaden Struble. I like the way he plays. I really like the way he skates. But he just is a mature player. We've said this for a while, and he did the solo lap as is customary. But these guys are one time were hockey fans watching on TV, and now you get to play against those guys. And so yes, initially he was a little intimidated, but fell right into a groove and was looking pretty comfortable in the 2 games that he played.
Yeah, Jaden Struebel's not an A-level prospect. I think we can agree on that. But you know what? He's come into this Montreal organization. He's been looking pretty good in Laval. He earned the call-up for sure, and I think he's had a good couple of games there. Of course, getting his first point as well. I'm pretty happy with what I've seen from Jaden Struebel in his early parts of the career.
Absolutely, and he can contribute some of what Arbor Xhekaj, at least the physical play, maybe not the fisticuffs so much, but he is a physical player, an excellent skater, and we saw him contributing to the offense in the 2 games he was in.
So now we'll get to this week's winners and losers.
And now it's time for this week's winners and losers on the Canadiens Connection.
So we'll start things off with our losers, and for this week, based on my pick, I will preface this by saying we put a lot of thought into these. We don't just pick anyone for the sake of picking someone, and there have been weeks where if we felt like there's not been a loser, we've skipped this segment or we've only done a winner, and that all that just to say this week, I think Gary Bettman forced my hand. He made me do it. A couple reasons, and there are more. You can fill in the gaps if you want, but the first reason I'll present to you, no games in the NHL on Tuesday night, no games in the NHL on Thursday night. Look, on the Thursday, I think you and I both agree that, you know what, American Thanksgiving, maybe that's a little bit more understandable, but Tuesday night, kind of ridiculous, and the rationale tweeted out and reported by Jeff Merrick is this: no NHL games tonight, here's why. There's only 3 teams and buildings available to host games tonight. Vancouver, Calgary, Arizona. Canadian teams get sent to the U.S. this week for Thanksgiving Eve, Black Friday, since home games this week were requested by American teams. I don't think that's a good enough excuse, to be honest. You had 2 Canadian teams available with available buildings in Vancouver and Calgary. You cannot tell me that people would not have wanted to watch that. Or if you were insisting on a game happening in the States, well, Gary Bettman's favorite team, the Arizona Coyotes, were literally available. So send whoever down there. So I think missed opportunity. I did find myself on Tuesday night with a rare free night for me, thinking, you know what, it'd be really nice to watch some hockey, maybe even a chance to get to know some of the other teams. Nothing to watch, but look over at the NBA. They're having an in-season tournament right now, all sorts of games every night of the week, so missed opportunity for the NHL. I'm sure tons of hockey fans would have loved to tune into literally anything on Tuesday night or even Thursday. And before I put my second reason for Gary Bettman as the loser, do you have anything else you wanted to add to that, Rick?
No, I agree with you 100%. And yes, I understand maybe why the NHL wouldn't want to go head-to-head with the NFL on American Thanksgiving. That might be a losing proposition. It's the tradition of watching the NFL on American Thanksgiving. But Tuesday, I agree with everything you said. The only thing I'd add is why is the NHL so far down the priority list in their own buildings that only three arenas were available on that date? That seems a little wrong to me.
Yeah. And my reason number 2 that I'll give here is, well, did you know that the league has not participated in any international tournament since 2014? Yeah, so that's coming up on a decade just about, where we've not seen best on best in any kind of a world championship. And we've been hearing for a while, you know, the NHL wants to do like a World Cup style competition. We had a little taste of this, I think, a few years back. It happened in the preseason, and it kind of became a bit of a laughing stock with all the gimmicky things they did. Like, instead of having, you know, full-on Team Germany's and Slovakia, they did like a Team Europe and whatnot. Well, they made an announcement this week. They decided finally that they will do an international competition. But here's the thing. Once again, the NHL making it kind of laughable. Only 4 teams will be competing in this: Canada, USA, Sweden, Finland. So with that said, no Leon Draisaitl, no David Pastrnak, none of the smaller countries that are very hockey crazy like Switzerland, Austria, Latvia. They're not going to be able to participate in this at all. So honestly, this isn't even best on best at this point, I don't think. If there's only 4 teams, and look, I get that these are probably the 4 top teams. I think a lot of people would expect that these are the teams that would be in the top 4 anyway. But shame on the league for not including any other teams within this. I don't know if it's a money thing or what, but you've had, almost a decade to try and come up with something, and the best you could do is 4 teams. This is not acceptable in my eyes.
Yeah, and I understand the political situation, but Russia, there's some pretty good Russian players as well, so I have to agree with you there.
Absolutely. And who do you pick for your loser of the week?
I'm going outside the NHL, and a great event last weekend. The Grey Cup. Congratulations to the Montreal Alouettes. I mentioned NFL football. The championship game in the CFL, the Grey Cup, is always a great game. Typically a great game. It's close. And it was again. Great effort by the Winnipeg Blue Bombers again, and we know they've been in it the last few seasons. The Alouettes underdogs, the Blue Bombers beset by injuries to key players. Congratulations to the Alouettes. However, after the game, there was a player, a safety for the Alouettes, Marc-Antoine Dequoy, and he made what can only be described as very bigoted comments. He went on this anti-Anglophone rant, and at the very least, he was criticizing his own market's English fans, and of course English CFL fans across the league, and it was disturbing. It was disgusting. They asked him to the next day to kind of apologize. He didn't. He said no, he was just misunderstood. But his comments really only had one kind of meaning. So, and listen, he was a good player along the way. There was a pick six in the Eastern Final that allowed the team to upset the Argos. So it was just really, really unfortunate, and maybe even more unfortunate is the fact that where were all the reporters in Quebec calling him out? Because if the situation had been reversed, there would have been an explosion of comments, and I was really disappointed in our media colleagues in Quebec that they didn't make more of this and encourage a proper apology from the organization and from the player involved. So a black mark on what was otherwise a great event and what led to a parade and all of that. So I was bothered by that.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. And we'll move along to our winners of the week and end on a more positive note here. I'll give mine to start, and I'm going with one Alex Nedeljkovic. Kind of a cool story coming out of this week. Over the span of 3 days, Nedeljkovic comes back from an injury. He goes on a conditioning stint in the American Hockey League, playing for the Pittsburgh Penguins affiliate, Scranton Wilkes-Barre, and he scores a goalie goal, like a real goalie goal, as you pointed out. And then not too long after, he goes up to the NHL. He plays a game for Pittsburgh against the defending Stanley Cup champions and the Vegas Golden Knights, and he gets a shutout. So crazy week for Alex Nedeljkovic, making history in the AHL as well. I think the first goaltender to score 2 career goals in the AHL. His last one came all the way back in 2018 on March the 10th versus Hartford. At that point, he was a member of the Charlotte Checkers. So big congrats to Nedeljkovic. I think a lot of people became fans of his while he was in Carolina. He moved along to Detroit and things just went off the rails. He was almost unplayable. But he earned himself a contract this offseason with the Pittsburgh Penguins. And despite an injury to start the season, it's nice to see him get things back on track and have a little bit of success.
Yeah, he is a goaltender that I've enjoyed watching and listening to, and especially when he was with Carolina. And Carolina could have used him on Friday night. I think it was Antti Ranta who was in net, gave up 8 goals on 14 shots to the Tampa Bay Lightning. But yes, this is especially that he's a bit of a character and a fascinating goalie to watch in Nedeljkovic, and a really worthy pick.
Absolutely. And who do you have for your winner of the week?
I have Rick Bowness, and Rick Bowness, of course, one of the older, maybe even the oldest head coach in the National Hockey League, head coach of the Winnipeg Jets. We know that back in October, he took a leave of absence from the Winnipeg Jets. His wife, Judy, had a seizure, and until they got that figured out and diagnosed, he decided to step away from the team and to be with her. So really good on Rick Bowness, really good on the Jets organization for letting him do that. I'm aware of other organizations that wouldn't have allowed individuals to step away for family issues. And great for Scott Arniel stepped in, and he's the associate coach with the Jets, and he was the interim head coach. And under Arniel, the Jets ran a 9-2-2 record, which terrific. And they in Rick Bowness's return, they had a shutout over the Florida Panthers on Friday night, and that was their 5th straight win. So this is a wonderful story all the way around by the Jets, by Arniel, by Rick Bowness, and also I'll throw in their captain, Winnipeg Jets captain Adam Lowry. I mentioned that game on Friday where the Jets shut out the Panthers. Captain Adam Lowry presented the game puck to Rick Bowness on his return. So really nice story all around.
Yeah, great story. I'm glad you didn't just pick Rick Bowness because of his first name. But Rick Bowness, he's a good guy too. I know he's been in the league for a very, very long time, spent many years as an assistant or an associate coach. Finally got an opportunity to be a head coach, moves over to Winnipeg, and great story coming out of this week. And nice to see that that whole Winnipeg organization rallied around him in his absence, and then they come back and get a shutout. So great pick on your winner. And now it's a good time to get to our prospect update.
It's time for the Rocket Report. The Rocket Sports Media Team is your premier source for information about the Laval Rocket, the AHL affiliate of the Montreal Canadiens, as well as Habs prospects playing in the CHL, NCAA, and leagues around the world. Bookmark thn.com/Montreal to follow our comprehensive coverage of Canadiens prospects.
So each week, we like to highlight a Montreal Canadiens prospect and shine the spotlight on them. This week, I'm going to shine the spotlight on one Luke Tuch of Boston University. So in 13 games this season, well, he's got 13 points. He's rocking a nice +9. I think this is somebody that we haven't talked about a ton, but there are quite a few Montreal prospects on that Boston University team. Luke Tuch's maybe an older prospect. I know that as of August 15th, 2024, that's the deadline for Montreal to sign him if they want him to remain within the organization. And I think he's looked pretty good. I don't think he's an A or an A+ prospect at the moment, but somebody that in recent years has started to really come into his own. So Luke Tuch is who we're going to shine the spotlight on this week.
And maybe just a little overshadowed, a lot overshadowed by Lane Hutson, of course. That's the player you're referring to with the Boston University Terriers. But Luke Tuch, he's been playing most of the season with Macklin Celebrini. Of course, Celebrini, one of the top prospects for the 2024 NHL draft. But getting lots of ice time, as you said, a point-a-game player, and I think he's looking as good as he's looked in his collegiate career. On Saturday, Boston University Terriers play Cornell, and that's both Luke Tuch and Lane Hutson at Madison Square Garden. So that'll be an experience for both of those Canadiens prospects.
Mm-hmm. And we wanted to point out a few other really good performances over this past week from Montreal prospects, starting with Jacob Fowler. He gets a shutout this week, and then a couple of 4-point performances coming from both Filip Mesar and Owen Beck.
Yeah, for Filip Mesar, it was his first hat trick of his OHL career, and he's just been very good and very. I think he's embraced this opportunity. Maybe last year it was a difficult transition for him, but he's been terrific this season. 23 points in 12 games for the Kitchener Rangers, and yes, 5 points in the last 2 games, 4 goals and an assist. Owen Beck, he's been unbelievable for Peterborough. And remember, folks were saying, and even our own Mike Raschel saying, I don't know, Peterborough's not going to be much this season. Well, they're first in their division and having a great season. Owen Beck with 21 points in 19 games. He had 4 goals and 2 assists this past week, a 6-point week, three goals, a hat trick against the Oshawa Generals. And it was Peterborough winning that game 6-5 in overtime. What should be noted is that the Generals had a 5-0 lead. And down 5-0, it was Owen Beck that got the hat trick. He was the trigger. He was the one that ignited the comeback. And of interest, it was his second hat trick of the season against the same team. He's had 2 hat tricks against the Oshawa Generals. You mentioned Jacob Fowler. It was his first shutout in the NCAA. And he's having a terrific season. The one shutout, a record of 9-2-1, 926 save percentage, 214 goals against. He was, we mentioned, he was Hockey East Goaltender of the Month for October. And it was his birthday on Friday. So happy 19th birthday to Jacob Fowler.
Yeah, great week for him. That's pretty crazy that he was able to achieve that and have his birthday. So nice to see that. But, what about one David Reinbacher? I feel like we haven't talked about him a whole lot since he's been injured. He has come back for a few weeks here. He's played 8 games on the season, only 3 points, averaging about 18 minutes per game. I feel like David Reinbacher not having the greatest start to his season, no?
Yeah. As you said, was injured, but has only played 8 games and 3 points total. That the goal that he got was an empty netter, whether you take anything out of that or not. But since he's come back from injury, he's looked awful. He's looked timid and tentative on the ice, and lots of turnovers. Nathan Beaulieu is we mentioned him before joining Cloten, and is now Cloten's most used defenseman. You'd like that to be David Reinbacher. I think you would. And Cloten is an awful team. They're 13th place of 14 teams. They have 6 wins in 8 and 14 losses. They aren't very good, and the saving grace we heard over and over again that don't worry, he's in Cloten and he'll be looked after by Jerry Fleming, who is the head coach at Cloten and also has ties to Montreal. Jerry Fleming was fired last week because of Cloten being so awful. General manager Larry Mitchell took over on an interim basis, so a bit of a mess there. Not good development opportunity, and David Reinbacher is struggling. Let's be honest, he's struggling.
Yeah, so we'll keep an eye on him for you, and we'll give you updates on how his season progresses along the way. But for now, let's take a look at the Laval Rocket, Montreal's AHL affiliate. and they've had kind of a rough week. 3 losses going back to November the 18th, visiting Utica. Utica wins 6-3. The game was, I guess, close in the third period, but Utica pots 2 empty netters to really seal that deal. A couple days off in between before going to Rochester. Laval faces Tokarski in net, who put up a really solid performance, and the Amerks win 4-3. Day off in between, another game against Rochester. This one goes to overtime. Rochester winning 3-2. 2 goals scored in the second for Laval from Mishak and Kidney. No goals in the third, and there you go, another loss. 3 games, 3 losses. Armia's probably been their most consistent forward and the guy that's been scoring the most. But also, he's the first guy to get called up. So, I guess the other thing I'll point out here is all 3 games coming on the road, so it looks like struggling on the road too.
Riley Kidney in that game on Friday night, really nice goal. He's got such a tremendous shot, great release, quick release, used the defenseman as a screen, and Cooley was in net for Rochester and beat him cleanly. But Riley Kidney's not getting much opportunity. Stuck on the forced line. He's been a healthy scratch at times. Jan Mishak, another player who we've talked about it. Scouts like the style of his game. Last night, he went to the net. He drove to the net and was in the right place to score. And he went back to the bench. He was just beaming. He went back to the bench, and the camera caught Jeff Uhl coming over. He looks up, Mishak looks up at Uhl, and the smile just drains right out of his face as Uhl was reprimanding him for something after he scored the goal. I don't know what in the world JF Uhl is doing, but it's not working. And, well, we know that he loves using his veterans, and they still are having they're struggling, and is the development going on there? Not so much. Even Joshua Waugh has had a really tough week this past week, and we've talked about him having a good season, being in the top 10 in AHL scoring, but it was a real struggle for Laval this week.
Absolutely. And the record shows currently the record is 5-9-3-0. That's a .382 points percentage and 29th in the AHL. So things are looking a little bit rough for this Laval Rocket team. They have a couple games coming up with the next week, but relatively quiet. They get a nice long break within there. On November the 25th, they go to Syracuse, and then on December 1st, they visit Abbotsford. So pretty light week for them.
Yeah, that Friday game in Abbotsford is the start of a 2-game series in Abbotsford Friday and next Saturday. And Abbotsford always, for whatever reason, the 2 Canadian teams, it can get nasty, and especially in that building. And so that's going to be a tough challenge for Laval next weekend.
And let's go down one more level and keep an eye on the Trois-Rivières Lions, the ECHL affiliate of the Montreal Canadiens. And a bit of an up and down week for them. Going back to November the 18th, Maine comes to visit, and Trois-Rivières win 2-1. A couple days off in between brings us to November the 22nd, and Trois-Rivières gets shut out by Norfolk. 4-0 win for Norfolk in that one. They have a rematch a couple days later on the 24th. Trois-Rivières comes away with a 5-3 victory. But currently, Trois-Rivières is still doing well in the standings. The record 11-3-0-0, so that's second in the East. Still pretty good despite a bit of a tougher week for them.
Second in the East and the 4th place overall in the ECHL, I believe. We talked about Joe Verbetic has been very good for Trois-Rivières. On Friday night, it was Zach Amond. He made 24 saves in that win over Norfolk.
And taking a look at the QMJHL, what we have started doing at Rocket Sports is we take care of the hockey news QMJHL website. So that's thn.com/QMJHL. And we put out a nice article this past week. And Rick, can you tell us about it?
Yeah, a few great articles. I love the articles from the archive of the Hockey News. You can find several of those. And there was an article that Jeremy Boucher, our Q contributor, put out, and what he's going to do. The period, the trade period is upcoming for the QMJHL. Always fun to watch that. And he's going to take a look at each team that is going to be active. And this week it was the Moncton Wildcats. Sat down with the GM to talk about their plans for the upcoming trade period, and the comment there was, "We want to win." So trades are fun in the CHL overall, and you're going to want to follow that series because there'll be a lot of great information.
Absolutely. So you can find all of our content on Canadiens prospects at thn.com/Montreal. And you can find the best English language coverage of the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League at thn.com/QMJHL. And now it's a good time to get to our quote of the week. Rick, you teased this, hearing from Jesse Ullinen. Well, on Friday night against the San Jose Sharks, Jesse Ullinen scored the game-deciding goal in the shootout. And boy, that was a great goal. Well, he was asked about this.
Yeah, it's good. It's always nice to score and help the team win, and the wins are only thing that matters right now.
He is, and it's been this way since we interviewed him with Laval. He's modest, he's humble, and he doesn't like to talk about his own achievements. He, as he said, the only thing that matters is a win. It was his game deciding goal, and a terrific move, as I mentioned earlier. He's got great hands. He's a terrific skater, and he deserves the praise, even though he doesn't like to accept it.
Yeah, and Jesse Ullinen, well, he has played very well the last little while. I think you and I have been pretty impressed by him, although it seems like he's been almost stapled to that fourth line and getting less than 10 minutes per game. What do you think is going on with this?
Yeah, typically he's averaging 11 shifts a game, and for whatever reason, Marty St. Louis has a blind spot when it comes to Jesse Ullinen, and Marty St. Louis has said that bench management is not his forte, and it certainly applies to Jesse Ullinen. Against the San Jose Sharks, on that fourth line, 7 minutes and 16 seconds a game, and then you put him on the ice and he scores that game-deciding goal. Against Anaheim, he had a really nice assist on Caden Gooley's goal, 7 minutes, 23 seconds. He had 2 goals against Vegas, the defending Stanley Cup champions, and Ullinen had 2 goals in that game, and played 7 minutes and 22 seconds. It's wrong. It's wrong for him to be on the fourth line. He needs more opportunity, and he needs more ice time.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And with that, let's take a look at some hockey news and notes from around the league. The Montreal Canadiens have announced that Air Canada is going to be their official road jersey partner. So at home, it's going to be RBC. On the road, it's going to be Air Canada. And you know what? The Air Canada logo on that jersey kind of blends in pretty well. The thing that bothers me about that RBC logo on the home jersey is it really just stands out, and the colors don't mesh well at all. But that Air Canada logo, it looks spot on. I don't mind that. Yeah,
I like it too. On the white jersey, the red maple leaf, the red logo of Air Canada, it looks great. Don't mind it at all. This is said to be a multi-year partnership, and so you'll see that logo on the jersey. And apparently, if you buy the jerseys, they'll come without, but that they'll throw in the sponsor patch for free. Says the Montreal Canadiens.
All right, that's very kind of them.
Yeah.
The TSN has announced their top 50 under 24 players, and how many Montreal Canadiens do you think made this list? And the answer is 1. Cole Caulfield comes in at number 8, so not too many Montreal players on that list at all. I think Cole Caulfield at number 8 makes a lot of sense based on who else is on this list. And do you have anything that you make of this, Rick?
Well, I think that Montreal Canadiens fans believe that they have the best prospect pool in the National Hockey League, and Canadiens fans want to believe that because it makes the pain of sitting at the bottom of the standings, near the bottom of the standings, worthwhile. It makes the losses worthwhile if you have confidence in your organization that it's building a wonderful prospect pool. What you don't see in this list, this top 50 list from TSN, under 23, you don't see, we talked about him, David Reinbacher, not in this list. We don't see Juraj Slafkovsky, not in this list. Connor Bedard is the number 1, and then a couple of the Hughes brothers, and justifiably so, at second and third. Tim Stützle at number 4, and Rasmus Dahlin rounding out the top 5. As you said, Cole Caulfield at 8. Other players that are interesting to point out. You have Adam Fantilli, who went to Columbus at number 14. Logan Cooley. We thought Logan Cooley might be a nice fit in Montreal. He's listed as number 15. Of course, went to Arizona. At number 16, I don't think I should mention this one, Matvei Michkov. That just gets... Yeah, that gets the blood boiling for some Canadiens fans at number 16. I like in the 20s, you have a bunch of goaltenders. Dustin Wolf with Calgary at 22. Jesper Wallstedt, who I think might be the best of the prospects. Number 23, part of the Minnesota organization. And Devin Levi with Buffalo from Montreal at number 26. Matty Nees with Toronto. No, don't mention any Leafs prospects. I know that Mike Rosh and I had a disagreement. I really liked Matty Nees, and that the Canadiens could have had him in that draft. Number 42, who you and I have talked about, especially leading into the draft, Ryan Leonard.
Yeah.
Let's not get a controversy going there. How about David Juracek at number 44 from the 2022 draft? I talked about that idea of swapping, take the defenseman in 2022, take the gritty forward in 2023. Didn't work out that way. And at number 47, another goaltender, Yaroslav Askarov. Why am I mentioning him? Well, he was offered to the Montreal Canadiens at the 2023 draft.
Yeah, so there you go. Honestly, looking up and down this list, I think they did a pretty good job of putting this together. And I don't think there's really anyone that I can think of that's missing from it as well. So good job to TSN. And unfortunately for the Montreal Canadiens, in a rebuild, it's kind of a shame to only have one player. Albeit it's a pretty good player, though.
A very good player, yeah.
And finally, last news item, Canadiens general manager Kent Hughes granted Sport SK an exclusive interview and spoke about Juraj Slafkovsky. So that's, I guess, a sports journal from Slovakia. I don't think that Kent Hughes gave up too much information on his thoughts about the Canadiens as a team or a whole lot on Juraj Slafkovsky. Thought it was interesting that he did not rule out the possibility of Juraj Slafkovsky spending some time in the AHL or going to the World Juniors if he felt like that was something that would benefit him. But at the same time, Kent Hughes was pretty complimentary of that top player.
Yeah, I think in that interview, Kent Hughes was couching his answers and saying, he mentioned a couple of times that that they don't rule out any options, but talked about why they were satisfied with Juraj Slafkovsky and talked about his character and how he fits into the room more than his performance on the ice. That they were really that they're really impressed with that part of his development, and in fact said his character and the way that he would respond to being in a big market and absorb the criticism and the overzealous praise and the harsh criticism that they felt his makeup would be able to absorb that, and that's one of the reasons that he was able to. One of the reasons they chose him. One of the main reasons they chose him, and they said he believes, Hughes does, that Slafkovsky has been handling the pressure. Although he said not perfectly, and he said that's partly because English isn't his first language, French isn't his first language. As far as him going to the AHL, again, wouldn't rule options out, but I think it didn't from his answer. It didn't sound like that was, unless the wheels fell off. Of Slafkovsky and his confidence was way down. I don't think that it's under consideration. World Juniors, I thought a fascinating answer here because he said, well, we'll make that decision at the time, but went on to say it's 1 week of hockey. I don't think there's 1 week of hockey that makes a hockey player. Which is fascinating because, well, maybe it was more than 1 week, maybe it was 2 weeks. The Olympics was what decided, what helped the Canadiens make their decision. It certainly wasn't Slafkovsky's play with his club team. It was on the big stage, and we heard Bobrov mention how he played on the big stage in those 2 weeks. So I thought that was absolutely fascinating. They touched on Mesar, and I think that the organization is happy. Last year was kind of touch and go. Mesar had been playing with men and went to play with players of his own age, and maybe he had a hard adjustment to that. But as we mentioned a few minutes ago, he's thriving in Kitchener right now. They'd rather have him there than bringing him to Montreal. He's a very skilled player, and putting him, down in their lineup. And the last question they asked Ken Hughes was, you got a lot of prospects, but no big star. Do you think that you're missing a big star? And the way he answered it was, we have some good offensive players. We need more. Do we need a star? The Edmonton Oilers are sitting at the bottom of the standings right now with two of the biggest stars in the NHL. It takes more than that to win. So, for an organization that, has had Maurice Richard, Jean Beliveau, Guy Lafleur, Steve Shaw, go on, Carey Price, Ken Dryden, I think that this rebuild is being done in a little bit different way.
Yeah, I think pretty good interview, like overall by Sport SK. I felt like this was something where if Habs fans blinked, they could have missed this one pretty easily. So nice on you, Rick, to find this one out. And Sport SK actually went on to have a little bit of fun with Montreal Canadiens fans standing out on the street and quizzing them on their knowledge about Slovakian hockey.
Yeah, it was very fun. And they also did a feature on Mesar. And I think what's coming, it has to be coming, is a feature interview with Slafkovsky. So we'll keep an eye on that for you, and we'll probably mention that in upcoming weeks. But then they said Montreal Canadiens fans are the most knowledgeable, the most passionate in hockey. So let's test them. And they went and took photos of Slovakian players, mostly in the past, and asked for their knowledge, stood outside of Provigo and asked them, and here's just one of the responses.
This one?
Yaroslav Halak. Yuri Slafkovsky.
Yeah.
Tomas Tatar. Zdeno Chara. Marian Hossa. Marian Gabrick.
Yeah, great result. Thank you.
Tremendous. What a good showing. Now, not all of the ones they asked got a perfect score, but this Canadiens fan did, wearing a Habs jersey as he answered it, and I thought it was a lot of fun by the Sports SK folks.
Yeah, I think that was a nice touch, and congrats to that fan for getting all of that right. I'm not sure that I would have, and To be honest, a nice little reminder how many good players have come from Slovakia. I kind of forget about some of those guys. I know like Chara and Gaborik a little bit older, but nonetheless, really good hockey players for sure.
And got the Tatar, got the the pronunciation in there.
Love that. But I think now's a pretty good time to head into our first break. We'll hear a message from our sponsors, DraftKings, and then we'll get to our big topic segment. It's going to be Thanksgiving evaluation time and what to expect for the remainder of the year. Stay with us. This is the Canadiens Connection podcast here on Rocket Sports Radio.
Bet the action on the ice with DraftKings Sportsbook. You know, it's hockey season once again, and although I love using DraftKings Sportsbook to enhance and make more fun my NFL watching week to week, it's even more fun when you get in on the action with the NHL and DraftKings Sportsbook. Whether it's daily fantasy, whether it's same game parlays that you're doing on Sportsbook, or whether you're just placing straight up money line bets, DraftKings Sportsbook makes it fun and easy for you to bet the action on the ice. So download the app now and use code THPN. New customers can get $150 instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5 on hockey. Now that's code THPN only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. The crown is yours. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/hockey for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. NHL and the NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the National Hockey League. Copyright NHL 2023. All rights reserved.
Welcome back to the Canadiens Connection podcast here on Rocket Sports Radio. I'm Michael Spinella. You can find me on Twitter at the Spinella, and with me in the studio is the president and founder of Rocket Sports, Mr. Rick Stevens. You can follow him on Twitter at Rocket Sports. You can follow at Habs Connection on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and you can check out our website, canadiensconnection.fm. Just a little reminder here off the top of the segment to hit that subscribe button in your favorite podcasting app or wherever you get your podcasts. That way you never miss a single episode of the Canadiens Connection podcast. And here we are on American Thanksgiving. The Montreal Canadiens were out of a playoff spot, actually, on American Thanksgiving. American Thanksgiving is kind of considered a benchmark for projecting playoff status and just getting a good evaluation of the team. Even sometimes I find if the team is a little bit on the outside, like just based off of an eye test, you have a pretty good idea of what they're going to be and what their weaknesses are. So they earned 18 points heading into yesterday's game against the San Jose Sharks with a record of 8-9-2. They ended up winning that game in the shootout, so that adds one more win to their record, but still outside of the playoffs. So I guess at this point, what does this mean for the direction of the rest of the season, Rick?
Well, we hate to be the bearers of bad news and, never say never, but it's very unlikely that the Montreal Canadiens are not making the playoffs this year. And folks say, how can you say that at the end of November? There's plenty of runway to go, and there absolutely is. But all the telltale signs, the great goaltending, the reason they were winning early has kind of slid back to where it should be. The easy schedule that they had in October is done, and now you get into the real meat of the season, and games get difficult, and it's going. And let's be honest, injuries have started to become a factor again with the Montreal Canadiens? Could they have made the playoffs with, does Arber Xhekaj make that big a difference? Does Jordan Harris make that big a difference? Maybe not, but Kirby Dach does. Makes a huge difference to the way this team is able to deploy and the way the opposition has to defend this team. So that doesn't mean you should stop watching. That doesn't mean there's all kinds of the Canadiens have been competitive. There's all kinds of individual milestones that can be achieved, and we're going to keep a close eye on Kent Hughes because we know that the Canadiens are likely to be sellers. And in that interview with the Sport SK that we talked about at the end of the last segment, he mentioned it was interesting. He said we have 11 picks in the 2024 draft, 11 picks the year after, and he said, and we'll be likely adding more picks this year. So that, I think, is a good signal that he's going to be very active.
Yeah, and I think one can hope so. I think last year's trade deadline was a little bit underwhelming. Kent Hughes was not as active as I think we were anticipating. Some injuries and whatnot did get in the way. But, leading up to that trade deadline, what I'm looking for is, of course, showcasing some of those veterans. Montreal does have a few players that I think could be on the move. Of course, you also want to focus on developing some of your younger players and prospects. Right now, Safkovsky sitting on 6 points in 20 games. You want to keep putting him in a position where he can develop and hopefully succeed at some point. And to be honest, I don't think we're looking so much at wins and losses at this point. Although I think that if you're looking at maybe a good draft pick, you're hoping for some losses. And I don't know if it's too early to really go team tank at this point. But still, like you said, a lot of things to watch out for. And, Kent Hughes, how soon can we see a move, do you think?
Well, as you said, last season, injuries came into the picture. And some of those injuries came into the picture in December. So if you're interested, leaving aside the goalie situation for the moment, if you're looking at players who are on expiring contracts like a Tanner Pearson, like a Sean Monahan, if you're looking at players that maybe have a year left, like a Christian Dvorak or a David Savard, maybe those and yes, acknowledge that David Savard has to be able to come back from his injury to participate in that. But will their offers be substantial enough? Will the offers be convincing enough starting in December for Kent Hughes to jump on? We know that patience is his greatest asset, but waiting too long may have been. That's a double-edged sword. So he may have saw the other side of that last season.
Absolutely. I think with Sean Monahan last season, that was a guy that I think it was being reported that a first-round pick could have been on the table for Sean Monahan, but then he gets a season-ending injury. Luckily, he does come back this season, re-signing with Montreal. I think there's a good opportunity to be able to do that. You mentioned Pearson. You wonder if maybe an Armia, who's been up and down between Laval and Montreal, might be somebody that they could look to move. Kent Hughes has also said that, he said last year in an interview that he couldn't stop getting calls about one Josh Anderson. He didn't want to move Anderson. The right deal wasn't there. And, Josh Anderson so far this season, 2 assists in 20 games. I wonder if Kent Hughes maybe has some regrets about not picking up the phone and listening to those offers a little bit more last season. So that's where I think, like you said, his patience is his greatest asset, but also it can be a bit of a double-edged sword. His unwillingness to budge on the price could have hurt him a little bit. Also, Edmondson is a player that I think we were hearing reports that Edmonton could have a first-round pick on the table for Edmondson at some points. Montreal waited around a little bit too long, and then Edmondson was injured and unavailable by the trade deadline. So, like I said, I'm hoping that Kent Hughes starts picking up the phone pretty soon. And I think the first thing he has to do is put an end to this 3-goalie tandem. And, as reports have been put out this week, there might be some options on the table for Montreal to move one of their 3 goaltenders. Jake Allen, Samuel Montembeault, or Caden Primo.
Yeah, there's, they say where there's smoke, there's fire. There's been a lot of fire, actually, in the last week or so. And we know that the Edmonton Oilers are desperate for goaltending. Actually, their goaltending isn't their only problem. And Jack Campbell, who knows what happened there, but I think the hope was that they would send him to the AHL and he'd find his game. He hasn't. His numbers have been terrible. And they brought in Calvin Pickard and Stuart Skinner. Stuart Skinner had a shutout on Friday night against Washington. But defensively, they're bad, but goaltending has been a nightmare. They made the coaching change, going to Chris Knobloch. That it may be too early to judge, but some of the same problems still exist in Edmonton, and it appears that that they are looking for a goaltender, not just with the Canadiens in mind, but they have looked at every single one of the Canadiens' goaltenders.
Yeah, Edmonton really seems to be evaluating all of their options. And before we get to some official reporting on this, I'm going to lay things out like this. And Rick, I guess to quote you, if teams are calling on Jake Allen, you trade him. If teams are calling on Caden Primo, you make the trade. If a team is calling on Sam Montembeault, I think you also make that trade. That's fair to say, right?
Absolutely. And if they want more than one, make a 2-for-1 deal as well. Yeah. Absolutely.
So let's hear from Elliot Friedman, and as he reports on the Oilers' search for a goaltender.
So Montreal had a few games at home, and someone told me the Oilers were there to see all 3 Montreal goalies play. They saw them all. They saw Primo, they saw Montembeault, and they saw Allen. So now a couple people warned me, don't assume it's going to happen, but but everybody noticed that they were watching them. And I think Allen is the least likely of the 3. Montreal with Montembeault and Primo, I think they would like some clarity on Montembeault.
Clarity on Montembeault, what does that mean? Well, that means because negotiations are underway with Sam Montembeault, the Canadiens want to know how that's going to end, because it's a different situation if the demands are going to be so high that you can't come to a deal, or if Kent Hughes is going to be backed into a corner on that. So if the negotiations are at all difficult, are contentious, if there's no movement by the Montembeault camp. Friedman went on to say that how long are you willing to wait to see if those negotiations are going to work out? The Canadiens are getting to the point where they want this to end. They want the 3-goalie situation to end. They want to come to some conclusion or not with Montembeault, and that this isn't going to drag on until the trade deadline. This is something that has to be resolved sooner than that.
Yeah, I don't think it made sense from the beginning of the season to carry 3 goaltenders if you're Montreal. Having Caden Primo sit up in the press box as much as he has, it's kind of just unfortunate for him. He's a young goalie. He does need to play. I don't think he's quite NHL ready. As we've seen in the few games that he's played, he's had moments where he's brilliant, and he's had moments where he's certainly been less than that. Interesting, too, Elliot Friedman pointing out that the Oilers have looked at all 3 goaltenders. And this past week, I think we did actually see all 3 goaltenders play, and kind of a mix of performances all around. And I guess that brings the question, what would an Oilers-Canadiens deal look like? Just kind of looking at things, and maybe I focus too much on this side of it, but the Oilers don't really have a whole lot of cap flexibility. So the obvious thing for them, in my opinion anyway, is if they're making a goalie trade for someone on the Montreal Canadiens, I don't see how the Oilers are going to get around not sending Jack Campbell the other way or another contract to try and make this work out. And if you're Montreal and the Oilers are trying to send Jack Campbell your way, I'm not sure if that makes a whole lot of sense. But like you pointed out, Rick, Campbell has passed through waivers recently, so that might help things out just a little bit.
Yeah, he can go to, if that kind of deal was made, he can go to Laval without having to go through waivers. Can he eventually find his game? Over a longer term, certainly the Canadiens would be able to be far more patient. The Edmonton Oilers got to get this thing turned around soon, or else it's a wasted year for them. The Canadiens aren't in that same position. So to make the numbers work, would you take on that contract? I don't know. You called it one of the worst contracts in the NHL, and that is probably true. And so when you look at the available goaltenders for the Montreal Canadiens, why does Elliot Friedman say that it's unlikely that it's Jake Allen? Well, I think Jake Allen could be a good backup, a solid backup. His numbers are equal to and in some cases a little bit better, in other cases a little bit worse than Sam Montembeault. The difficulty with Jake Allen is that he has a modified no trade with 7 teams, I believe, on it. And we don't know who those teams are, but we know that Edmonton is not a big destination for a lot of players. So that could be an issue. Caden Primo, we know Caden Primo. We've seen him in the AHL. We've seen him in the NHL. And there's no fooling. I don't know about Edmonton's experience with goaltenders. Maybe there is an opportunity to fool them, but they have seen Caden Primo not only in the NHL. The scouts, we see the scouts at AHL games, same scouts at NHL games. They are pro scouts. They go to Laval. They go to Montreal. They have seen Caden Primo a lot. And they'll notice, as Marty Braun said, that his skills or his lack of skills don't translate well to the NHL game. I think it was, an easy assignment he got to get that win against the NHL's worst team. Even in that, and not so much the goals that he gave up, but the saves where he was completely out of control, turned around, on the opposite side, and it hit a stick, and Mike Hoffman, right off the hop, missed the net. Even in the shootout, it wasn't. Primo faced 6 shooters. He made one solid save on Zetterlund, a glove save on a slap shot. But the rest shot over the net. Mike Hoffman hit the post in the shootout. It's not Primo coming in and dominating and feeling confident. He just looks to escape games, and you can hear it when he as we said last week, he's uncomfortable in his own skin. So would the Oilers go that route? I don't think so, and that leaves Sam Montembeault. And listen, some of the what's been written about. You talk about overzealous. No, it's not in that category. It's just absolute nonsense has been written about Sam Montembeault being an elite goaltender, and he just isn't. He's not even close. Sam Montembeault is is an average goaltender. In just over 100 games played, 3.5 goals a game, and he doesn't have a 900 save percentage. 897, I believe, is his current total. Canadiens reporters, Montreal reporters, are really they like reporting the goal saved above expected stats. Because that's the only one that Sam Montembeault seems to do well at. But even I think he was 13th last year. If you look at, and I think this is a better stat actually, goals saved above expected per 60. If you look at that stat, you have Jake Allen is 22nd in the league. Not great. That kind of says he's an average goaltender. And Sam Montembeault is 2 places below that at 24th in the league. So that one doesn't even give him that advantage. But listen, if the Edmonton Oilers want to take any of the goaltenders off the Canadiens' hands, why should there is no Carey Price in this organization? And I thought that it was interesting that the NHL.com had a 2-part series on Carey Price. And this past week, Dave Stubbs did spend some time with him when Carey was in Toronto. And the article reminded us how dominant he was, how he was the best goalie of his generation. All of the elite goaltenders that the Montreal Canadiens have had over the years, and all the records that Carey Price holds, better than them all. So it's difficult, and this is none of the goaltenders in the organization right now are at that level. So it's going to take a different strategy, and certainly in the interim, you deal with some pain, and you're thinking about the future. And Kent Hughes needs to pull the trigger and end this 3-goalie rodeo.
Absolutely. And let's think about some potential components of this trade and hear from Darren Dreger as he talks about that.
I think, though, for the Montreal Canadiens, in fact, I don't think I know this, if they're having a conversation willing to trade Sam Montembeault, then the return coming back is going to be substantial, as it would need to be. And what does that mean? How do you break that down? If we're connecting the dots in Edmonton one more time, guess where we're going, right? We're talking about Xavier Bourgault and maybe something else. I don't know. I think that would get the attention of Kent Hughes and management of the Canadiens. But given where the Edmonton Oilers are, maybe you can make it a little bit more extravagant. Maybe you can build it into something bigger. Do we say blockbuster? Maybe. I don't know what other pieces in Montreal could change or impact the core of the Edmonton Oilers.
Dare we say blockbuster? Dare we? Do we say blockbuster? A little dramatic there from Darren Dreger. But he mentioned the name of Xavier Bourgault. We talked about him. I think we talked about him last week. We talked about him before on this show. Certainly would be a target by the Montreal Canadiens. He was a first-round pick, 22nd overall by the Oilers in 2021. Smallish forward and said to be the Oilers' best prospect, kind of a weak prospect pool, but in Bakersfield this season, he has a goal and 4 assists for 5 points in 11 games. But Kent Hughes, that Cortex management, he's represented by Kent Hughes, obviously very familiar with this player.
Yeah, I don't know. Is Edmonton going to have to give up their best prospect in order to get one of these Montreal goaltenders? Well, if you listen to Darren Dreger, maybe, but based on some of the things we've talked about, I'm not feeling so convinced that that's what Edmonton would have to give up, to be completely honest. And I know that you mentioned as well that they have a bit of a weaker prospect pool. Maybe Xavier Bourgault ends up being more of like a B-level prospect in most organizations. But to be completely honest here, I think that it really would not cost that much. Looking at some of the other prospects Edmonton has, there's Matvei Petrov, Tyler Tullio, Raphael Lavoie. Has just not a whole lot there that's all that great or interesting, but maybe in Edmonton, these are some guys who are quite valuable. But like I said, too, I think that this Montreal organization and the Edmonton Oilers organization would really have to do something that makes the numbers work just because of the lack of cap flexibility on either side. On top of that, I think that, you know what? How do I put this? I don't know. I don't know how it's avoidable that Jack Campbell's not going to be within this trade personally. Darren Dreger, pretty dramatic by saying, it could be a very big trade. Well, is Montreal going to be able to maybe package up a few things? Is there something else Montreal has that could be interesting to Edmonton? Maybe, I don't know, like a Sean Monahan or something. Maybe that could drive up the price a little bit. But again, this is all speculation at this point, and it's really going to be up to the Edmonton Oilers to decide if any of these three goaltenders are going to be good enough to come in and be legitimate. I guess like 1B type goaltender is what the Edmonton Oilers are going to be looking at the moment.
Yeah, Darren Dreger was definitely teasing that something bigger, something more than just a Montembeault going to Edmonton. And I said earlier that goaltending is the main problem in Edmonton, but it's not the only problem. And they've had difficulties on defense. The Canadiens with an abundance of defensemen, young defensemen that are coming into the organization. Would Canadiens fans be as excited about this trade if it was not only Montembeault, but if one of the young defensemen was packaged up, whether it's a Struble, whether it's a Jordan Harris, whoever it might be, to fit the terms with Dreger calling it a blockbuster? I think that Kent Hughes has just got to solve his goalie situation and bring back some assets, the kind of that he talked about in his interview with Sport SK, adding some draft capital, and maybe just maybe adding that prospect that they think could help their prospect pool in Xavier Bourgault.
Yeah, exactly. And how many times have you heard, Montembeault's been found money, can't believe we got him off of waivers. Well, if you get literally anything in exchange for Montembeault, I think that still counts as found money. It doesn't have to be a huge return, right?
That's right. And I think there's a real danger. The danger is that Montembeault stays. And Montembeault has become this fan favorite, this cult hero in Montreal, not because of his numbers, partly because his birthplace, partly because he's made it clear that he loves being Montreal and he'd love to stay in Montreal. And so that buys him some favor. We know that we've heard Sam Montembeault loves to monitor social media and gets his I think builds his confidence through that. But I think that if this gets to where Montembeault, he hears the rumors of the trade, but the Canadiens are keeping him, then his salary demands get out of whack. And my goodness, anything beyond what Jake Allen, certainly what Jake Allen is his deal is paid, is way too much. I think Jake Allen offers more to the organization because of his having won a Stanley Cup, his veteran leadership, and he can mentor a young goalie. Sam Montembeault isn't the same kind of person. He can be mentored, but he's not a mentor to younger players. And I think that there might be a danger in overpaying Montembeault and keeping him, and then everybody realizes the average goaltender that he truly is.
Yeah, I think right now too might be an opportunity to sell high on a Montembeault.
Yes.
I don't know that his value is going to be any higher than it is right now. Maybe it would have been a little bit higher last year based on how much more he was being talked up last season. I agree with you about Jake Allen. I think, if anything, it's the leadership, and also a guy that has said that he wants to be in Montreal. So I think there's a lot of value to that, and being able to turn to the veteran goaltender when you have kind of a shaky team through a rebuild is pretty nice. And like you said, with Montembeault, I think there is a danger of handing out a Jack Campbell type contract that could come around and bite you in the bum a few years later when you want to be very good. So I think, like we keep saying over and over here, if you're getting some offers on Montembeault or Primo, I think you take it, you run. I don't think that you're looking to go for like a home run type trade and getting back a huge return with multiple draft picks or anything. I think you take what you can get, you sell high, and there you go. That's how you get your found money.
Agree 100%, which kind of leads us right into our question of the week.
Yeah, so our Canadiens Connection question of the week is, which players will finish the season as the Canadiens goalie tandem? We want to hear from you, and we'll give you a few moments to think about this as we head into our final break on this episode. We're going to hear from our sponsors, and then we'll get to the Have Your Say segment. Stay with us. This is the Canadiens Connection here on Rocket Sports Radio.
Have you started noticing how many holiday and Christmas commercials are already popping up on your television screens? Well, listen, it may be too early to start decorating for the holidays, but it's never too early to start your holiday shopping. So why not take care of it now before the crowds and packed calendars make shopping a total nightmare, especially when you can get some of the best deals of the season well before Black Friday. Hey, guess what? You can shop Raycon products right now and save up to 50% off because their early Black Friday sale is going on right now. Now, you've heard me talk about Raycon's products before, right? Their everyday earbuds are a product that I use all the time. They've got great sound. They've got one-touch environmental settings on the earbuds themselves. They fit so comfortably inside my ear, and their connectivity is always seamless. They are absolutely tremendous. Raycon first made a name for themselves in the audio space with products like those everyday earbuds, which of course are known for delivering high quality and thoughtful features like a 32-hour battery life and that perfect in-ear fit that I talked about. That gives you all-day wear and lasting comfort. And did you know that this past year, they expanded their entire business with the introduction of Raycon Home and Raycon PowerTech? So what is that? Well, check this out. Their 5-star reviewed Magic 180 cable allows you to charge iOS, micro USB, and Type-C devices 8 times faster with 100-watt power delivery. Looking for something that's not electronics related? Well, guess what? Their faucet filter ultra filters the water in your tap against chlorine and heavy metals. It's a must-have for ensuring the water you use to wash your face and brush your teeth is, actually clean. Raycon's known for delivering high-quality and thoughtful features at half the price of other premium tech brands. So it's no wonder their products have racked up tens of thousands of 5-star reviews. So, to get everyone in the holiday shopping spirit a little bit early, Raycon is offering currently 20% off everything on their site, with select products up to 50% off. So, beat the crowds and save now. Trust me, you do not want to miss out on Raycon's early Black Friday sale. So hurry now to buyraycon.com/THPN to get 20 to 50% off site-wide. That's buyraycon.com/THPN to score up to 50% off Raycon products. buyraycon.com/THPN.
Welcome back to episode 271 of the Canadiens Connection podcast here on Rocket Sports Radio. Make sure that you are following at Habs Connection on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Also, check out our website, CanadiansConnection.fm, and feel free to text us anytime via the Rocket Sports text line, 5853-ROCKET. That's 5853-ROCKET. And lots of interesting discussions to be had about the Montreal, I guess, their trade situations, their trade options, their goaltending situation, carrying 3 goaltenders. I think sometimes we get a little bit carried away, and we forget to mention that, there are other teams out there that could actually be looking to move goalies too.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. We talked about it a bit during the break, that the Edmonton Oilers, contrary to what some Canadiens fans think, don't have to trade with the Montreal Canadiens. They don't have to. They don't have to trade for Sam Montembeault or Caden Primo or Jake Allen for that matter. There are other there are other organizations, and we threw around a couple of names. You mentioned the Arizona Coyotes. I said Karel Vejmelka, and you said
Connor Ingram. That's a good goaltender.
Yeah. We saw a very good goaltender, formerly with New Jersey, in San Jose, in Mackenzie Blackwood. Why wouldn't San Jose want to move a goaltender? We also talked about Detroit.
Yeah, they're carrying 3 goaltenders. They have, their starter is Ville Husso. He's probably not on the move, but they're also carrying Alex Lyon and one James Reimer that I think we felt would be a good fit for the Edmonton Oilers as well.
Yeah, I think Reimer would be pretty good. Yaroslav Halak is a free agent, I guess. That's an option. Carter Hart. It was reported that he was made available at the beginning of the season. Maybe things have changed as Philadelphia has been pretty good. But there are options other than the 3 goaltenders in Montreal.
Yeah, I'll throw out one more for you. Why not just next door in Calgary? This Dustin Wolf goaltender's pretty good. Maybe they want to give him a shot in the NHL and move on from one of Vladar or Markstrom. So plenty of options around the league, and we do want to hear everyone's thoughts. So please let us know what you think about everything we've talked about on this episode. Just text us at 5853-ROCKET. And boy, these Montreal Canadiens, always something going on. But here at Rocket Sports, we've got you covered. Here's where you can find everything that you need to know to stay up to date. Head over to thn.com/Montreal. That's the hockey news. We do all the Montreal coverage for the hockey news online. Game day posts. We do feature articles. We do lots of writing about prospects to keep you up to date with the Laval Rocket and the Trois-Rivières Lions. So everything you need to know, you can find all the Canadiens coverage in one place. Also, if you like multimedia content, we have plenty of it. You can also head over to our YouTube channel. Just search @AllHabs and hit that subscribe button. On there throughout the week, we have several shows that we post. To start, the Habs Hockey Report show, hosted by Amy Johnson. The latest episode entitled NHL GMs Might Change the Rules of Overtime. So head over there, check that out. Amy is a wonderful host, and she loves to engage with all of her viewers. Leave a like, leave a comment, hit subscribe. And if you want to keep up to date with the Laval Rocket, another good source is the Rocket Hockey Report, also hosted by Amy Johnson. The latest episode entitled Injuries Recalls Equals Bigger Challenge for the Laval Rocket. So head over there, check that out. Also, this podcast has been put into that YouTube channel as well. You can find that throughout the week. The Canadiens Connection podcast's last episode entitled Rating the Habs. What's good, what's bad, and what about the playoffs? Head over there and check us out on YouTube as well. Give us another listen on YouTube and enjoy all of our content throughout the week.
I'm just going to add in there, emphasize, we love your likes. We love your comments, and we get a lot of them. We love all of the views that we get on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/allhabs, easy to find. But one thing we'd love for you to do is subscribe. I've noticed that we get tons of views, and about half of those are from subscribers, and about half of those are from non-subscribers. So do us a favor. We do all the research. Amy does a terrific job, all the production. that she does, the video production. Give us a Christmas gift. Give us an early Christmas gift and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's the least you can do.
And that way, you can also stay up to date with all of our content as well. You're not going to want to miss out on anything throughout this season. Like I said, always something interesting going on with the Montreal Canadiens and the Laval Rockets. So that's going to be a really good spot for you to stay up to date. Coming up next week, myself and my Rocket Sports Media colleague Gustav will be doing a live stream watch along on YouTube. This will be on the 29th, Montreal visiting Columbus. So come hang out with us, tune in, send in questions, just tune in and let us know what you're thinking too. And give us some feedback on this as well. If you like this style of content, watching the game with us, and we know that our listeners love to be engaged, and that's another great place to do that.
And it's easy. It's like being in a pub, but you can stay home and interact with other Canadiens fans all over. I really enjoy the live streams that you've done yourself and Nathan and now Gustav. They're just a great way to watch a Montreal Canadiens game.
And finally, make sure that you are subscribed to the premier Rocket Sports Media podcast on your favorite podcast app, The Canadiens Connection. You can also find all of our episodes at canadiensconnection.fm. So if you haven't already and you like what you hear, hit that subscribe button. That way you never miss a single episode. We'll be here every single Saturday throughout the year. We are your inside link to the Montreal Canadiens. And as we reach the end of November, we're reaching the end of our Movember campaign. I've been growing the mustache. I've been updating the daily Mo tracker. I know you, Rick, have been doing the move, and we've done a good job of, raising awareness for men's health, and we really enjoy doing this Movember campaign.
Absolutely. It's something we've supported for the past 10 years, and as you said, the main reason we get involved is about awareness, but we also like to raise a few dollars for the Movember campaign. So if you're feeling in a giving mood, you have a little bit left over from your Black Friday shopping, head to Movember.com, look for the Rocket Sports page, and give what you can.
Absolutely. So now it's a good time to flip it over to our listeners. Our Canadiens Connection question of the week is, which players will finish the season as the Canadiens goalie tandem? We want to make sure that we hear from you. You can text us at 5853-ROCKET. You can reach out to us on social media at Habs Connection on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. But Rick, if people have a little bit more to say, I believe they can email us as well.
You sure can. It's hello@rocketsportsmedia.com. hello@rocketsportsmedia.com.
We receive tons of text, tweets, emails, and other messages throughout the week. And Rick, I believe we have a few that we wanted to highlight today.
Well, this text comes from our good friend Dino, who listens to us in the Gatineau, Ottawa-Gatineau area. This one, includes you, Michael. So let me just read this. From Dino. Dino says, Rick, my friend, here's the scoop. I went out for a walk just earlier trying to bust the cobwebs out. I was en route to Timmy's for a coffee and a bagel, and on the ground, I see a coin. I get closer, I pick it up. It's a copper penny. Holy smoke, impossible. There's been none around for years. I look at the year, and well, it's hard to tell. I give it a rub, but what appears? 2007. Really? Holy smoke. My spider senses started working overtime. 2007? Was that the Sens versus the Mighty Ducks? I wasn't sure, 2006 or 7. So I got home, I put Google to work, and presto, confirmation. That means the Senators are going to the show. Tell Mike the Spin Doctor Spinella the good news. It's possible that there will be a parade at the Palladium, otherwise known as the Canadian Tire Center. Karma via Brian Kilray, the blessing has been sent. So, Michael, you grew up as a Sens fan. It's been predicted. It's been prognosticated by the coin on the sidewalk in the Ottawa area that the Sens are going to the Cup final.
Don't tease me, Dino. Appreciate you reaching out, letting me know. If only. We'll see what happens, though. It's been a tough rebuild. It's been a tough start to the season for those Ottawa Senators. But who knows? Things can turn around, and appreciate the nickname as well. I don't think I've had anyone call me that before, but I hope that sticks.
Yeah, we always appreciate getting mostly texts and emails from Dino, a diehard Canadiens fan in the Ottawa region.
Absolutely. So I will put out a reminder, too, that when you do reach out to us, please do let us know your first name and where you're from. That way we know who we're talking to, and we love to see where everyone's from as well, because we know that there are Habs fans from all over the globe. Coming up this week, I guess an early game on Saturday, just before, or I guess just a little bit after we were recording on November the 25th, Montreal visits the LA Kings. That's a 4 p.m. start, so don't miss out on that. A couple of days break in between before Montreal goes to visit the Columbus Blue Jackets on the 29th. Make sure that you tune in to YouTube to watch the live stream watch along with Gustav and I. And then it's a back-to-back as Florida comes to Montreal to end the week. So a couple of interesting games and a bit of a mix of competition coming up this week.
Absolutely.
So that's going to be a wrap for us today. Thank you all for listening. Make sure that you're subscribed to the Canadiens Connection podcast in the player or on any of your favorite podcasting apps. You can also share it on social media if you like what you heard. Enjoy the week, and we'll be back here next Saturday, December the 2nd, for another great episode. Thank you all for listening to the Canadiens Connection podcast here on Rocket Sports Radio.
Click subscribe so you never miss an episode of Canadiens Connection. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Rocket Sports.